Within the film, one of the principles violated is the principle of proportionality. It prohibits weapons and methods that cause damage to civilians and their property that is excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage anticipated. Thus, it is prohibited to launch attacks when they can be expected to cause incidental deaths and injuries among the civilian population or damage to civilian objects or both that would be excessive in relation to the anticipated military advantage. This is an example. If a military force attacks a building that houses an arms factory but also houses a school and a residence for civilians, the attack could be considered disproportionate if the harm caused to civilians and civilian object is disproportionate to the military advantage of destroying the arms factory. The arms factory might be a legitimate military target, but the harm to civilians and civilian objects might not be proportionate to that military advantage, especially if there are other options for attacking the factory without endangering the civilian population.
Today I'm going to talk about the principles of proportionality and military necessity. The next principle is proportionality. This principle states that attacks must not be carried out if they are expected to cause excessive harm to the civilian population in relation to the anticipated military advantage. In other words, collateral damage must not be disproportionate. That we have the principle of military necessity. This allows the use of force only when it is surely necessary to achieve a legitimate military objective. The use of force is not justified if there is no concrete and direct advantage. Every use of force must be rational and measured.
Have you ever wondered if there are rulings during war? Why there are? Are they of most important scale principal distincts and give part of the international humanities law and HHL. This prince is all about protecting people who did not fight. Aside during the armed conflicts, parts must always distinguish between combats and civilians, and between military objects and civil objects. So what does the mean? I mean, it means that only soldier and military targets can attack civilians, such as women, children, doctors, or any more not dictated immobile in the fight, must be armed and they use people. Civilization objects, like home, school, hospital, and the cultural monuments are the protected too. Imagine a war zone dividing the soldiers in the wounds and civilians, and the others on the win roles. You can't involve in the arts hopping in the enemy. That's what it's illegal. Intensified military actions must be careful and the elements of avoid hurting those who aren't part of the fight. It sums deliberate target civilizations of the project place in the customers war on the understanding law. The principle of the discrimination exists and limited suffers in the war limitations in the world in the even times of conflicts. They are rules, and those rules and the maintain the project's humanity dignity.